Hey guys, and welcome back to DarkLogic Studios' Attack on Titan theories and discussions. Before we go any further, I want to give you fair warning that these videos are going to contain lots and lots of spoilers. So if you're not caught up with the manga, then what are you doing with your life? Seriously though, if you don't want spoilers, you should probably click on something else. If you're all caught up though, then let's get to it. Hey guys, welcome back. So here it is. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 84. We're going to be talking about Levi's choice, why he made the choice he did, why he chose to save Armin, why he would ever choose not to save Erwin. We're going to look at flashbacks panel by panel and kind of break it down a little bit and see what we can find, try to figure out what's going on in Levi's head. So let's ask the obvious question. Why would Levi ever choose not to save Erwin? Because Erwin is the most important thing in Levi's life. He's his best and most trusted friend. He's his commander who he works with very closely. He looks up to him, he admires him, he believes in his vision and his dreams. He's a man he's been fighting and bleeding beside for years. He's the guy who basically rescued him from a life of poverty and crime. And Levi chose not to save him. And even though I knew Armin would most likely get the serum, I just couldn't imagine a scenario where Levi would choose to let Erwin die. But the way it was done, it was pretty subtle. It doesn't throw it in your face, it just kind of gives you some images and words, and it lets you put the pieces together. So like I said, we're going to go through the scene panel by panel and see what we can discern from it. Okay, so first I want to say, I don't think there's just one reason Levi gave Armin the serum. I think there's actually two reasons, and I'm going to talk about both of them. So let's start at this moment when Eren grabs Levi's leg and asks him if he's heard of the ocean. And he's telling Levi about it as Flock is trying to drag Eren away. But Eren keeps going and he starts saying, all I wanted was revenge for my mother. All I wanted was to kill the Titans. I was just full of hate. But Armin was different. He had dreams. He wanted to chase those dreams. He wasn't just here to fight. And Levi's hearing Eren and you can see that he's listening. But at the end of the day, Levi's all business and the clock is ticking. It's no time to get sentimental. They gotta do what's best for humanity. That's the bottom line. So he stands up, tells everybody to get out of there. Everybody starts picking up and leaving. Everybody's distraught. Nobody can believe what's happening. Flock's carrying Eren away, and there he's reaching out for Armin. God, these two. Such tears. So immediately after that, we go to the flashback of Levi listening in on their conversation with Armin, talking about the ocean the night before. So this turned out to be a pretty important scene for Levi to overhear this conversation. And what I find interesting about this redraw of this scene is if you compare it to the first one, you see Levi, he kind of sneaks up on them. He sits behind that big door in that warehouse or whatever he's in. And he looks kind of bummed out. He's got what looks like a pint next to him, so he's probably been drinking. So while everybody else is celebrating, like, oh yeah, we're gonna go take Wall Maria, woohoo, Levi's a veteran. He's been there a while. He knows how these things go. And he's worried about Erwin. He's worried about his squad. He's not looking forward to seeing a bunch of people die again. And he's just sitting there looking all depressed. But in this chapter, we see Levi, and he seems to be remembering it fondly. He's kind of got this smile on his face. And at this moment, when Levi happened upon them, you know, he's feeling all down and depressed. He's just wandering around all by himself, drinking his sorrows away. And then he overhears the three of them talking, and he comes closer, so he's listening intently. And as he's listening to Armin talk about the ocean, and talk about all the fish and the salt and blah blah blah, it's kind of nice for Levi. It's kind of refreshing to hear someone talk about something like that with such excitement in their voice. That kind of hope is something you don't hear often because everything's so bleak and so dreary all the time, and Armin's kind of unique in that sense where he does have this kind of blind hope, this innocent dream, and it's such a contrast to the rest of this world that they're in. And as he's sitting there, Levi kind of turns back and he can see Armin. And he can see his face and the look in his eyes, and he can hear the excitement in his voice. And Levi's got kind of this look like he's reminiscing about more innocent times and times before he lost his friends. On the next page, Levi's walking over. Seems like he's kind of taking his time as he drags Bertolt's body over to Erwin. And now Levi starts thinking about his conversation with Erwin, about his dream. So remember, he was just thinking about Armin, how Armin looked when he was talking about his dream. And now he's thinking about how Erwin looked when he was talking about his dream. So Levi hears himself talking in his head, and he remembers asking Erwin, "Once you achieve your dream, what will you do?" And Erwin tells him, "I don't know. I won't know until that dream is fulfilled." Fair enough answer, I suppose, because that's what he wants, that's his dream. He wants to see that basement, but Erwin is the commander of the Survey Corps. Shouldn't his answer be something more along the lines of, well, I'm gonna take that information and I'm gonna use it to advance humanity and learn more about the Titans and find new and better ways to fight them. We're gonna do it. We're gonna beat the Titans. Shouldn't that be what Erwin is saying right now? But that's not what he's saying. He's saying, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do after I see the basement. Because that's what Erwin cares about, ultimately. What Erwin is driven by is the desire to prove his father's theories, because he has guilt that he was essentially responsible for his father's death, because he went around little Erwin with his big mouth talking about what his dad said to him, and ever since then he's been on this quest to find the answers that his father couldn't find, and to prove that what his father believed was true. But I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So if we go back to chapter 80, when Levi kind of kneels down and says to Erwin, "I'll make the choice. Go to hell and die, and take those recruits with you. I'll take down the Beast Titan." And when he says that, Erwin just kind of smiles at him, and he actually looks relieved. So as Levi's thinking about this, he's thinking about Armin talking about his dream, he's thinking about Erwin talking about his dream, and Eren and Mikasa and everybody wanting this and that, and he's like, man, you guys, you're just a bunch of fucking brats, whining and complaining about what you want. I don't have any damn dreams anymore. I can't afford to have any damn dreams. I'll just fucking kill Titans all day because that's what I'm good at. So then he starts thinking about Kenny, and he's thinking about that moment that Kenny died. Levi finds Kenny and he's dying, and Levi's like, "You're all fucked up, there's no saving you." And Kenny's like, no, I don't know about that. And Levi looks down and Kenny's got his hand on the serum. And Kenny starts explaining some things about it. He's like, "Yeah, I'd be a stupid Titan, but I live a little longer." And Levi's like, "Well, at least you wouldn't be sitting around waiting to die." And then Kenny says, "Now I think I understand why he did what he did. Everyone's been like that. Everyone has to dedicate themselves to something, otherwise you can't withstand this world." And Levi's leaning down. He's sticking the needle in Erwin's arm. And he pauses a moment, and he looks over at Armin, and he's still hearing Kenny in his head. And he's saying, "Everyone is drunk on something, even him." And in chapter 69, the person Kenny was referring to was actually Yuri. So then suddenly, Erwin's arm shoots up, and Levi looks down, and Erwin's kind of mumbling incoherently, and he says something like, "Teacher, how do I investigate something that doesn't exist and prove otherwise?" And Erwin's obviously lost a lot of blood. He's not in a fully conscious state, and he's kind of hallucinating, or half-conscious, and he's imagining himself back in class with his father when he asked this question. When you think about it, it kind of adds to the tragedy of Erwin's death, because even on the brink of death, he's thinking about that question he asked his father in class, the question that first got him started on his journey So anyway, let's go back again to chapter 80. And Erwin's pretty much saying, the only reason I was able to come this far was because I really thought I'd be able to see what was in that basement. And he says, sometimes I thought death would be easier, but I couldn't get the thought of my father's dream out of my head. Now here I am. I'm so close. It's right there. But Levi, can you see them? Our comrades watching us? They want to know the objective they forfeited their lives for, because the battle's not over yet. So Erwin's thinking right now, if one of my dead soldiers were to come up to me and ask me what meaning their death had, what answer would I have for them? So what Erwin's saying here is he's having a bit of a dilemma. He's saying, well, we could gather up the remainder of our troops and I could get out of here and maybe see the basement someday, but that's childish, isn't it? And he's thinking, what more do I have left to offer these fallen soldiers? He's questioning the morality of his choices. He's realized that he's committed these great sins, and he wants to use his final moments of life to repent for those sins. There's still a part of him that selfishly wants to see the basement, and as he's talking about this, Levi has realized this too. And Levi has realized that the vision of Erwin's that had captivated him in the first place, the whole reason Levi decided to follow him and stay with the Survey Corps, isn't what it was always chalked up to be. So Levi is no longer as invested in Erwin's dream as he once was, because it wasn't what he thought. And in a way, Erwin is kind of confessing his sins to Levi. So as Levi is seeing this, he's noticing the despair and the guilt. And as Levi's thinking back to this scene, he's thinking back to the choice that he made, to the promise that he made. As he's thinking about Erwin and the look on his face, and he's thinking about Kenny and the look on his face before he died. And you look at Levi's eyes in this panel, it's a look of realization, because Levi knows he failed to follow through on that promise. These are the eyes of a man who just realized he's about to make a horrible mistake. Not only is he about to take away his subordinate's beloved childhood friend, he's also about to bring his friend back into an existence where he was suffering. And he realized that Erwin has the same look of pain and guilt and regret that Kenny had in his eyes when he died. And if you think about it, Kenny and Erwin do have some things in common. They both led a bunch of people to their death trying to obtain their dreams. Kenny sacrificed his whole squad in the military police for his dream that he also could not achieve. And then Levi remembers Armin, and seeing the look in Armin's eyes as he's talking about the ocean. And when he thinks about the way Armin looked while he was talking about his dream, he realizes that Armin's eyes are not filled with the pain and guilt and grief that Erwin and Kenny's eyes had. He's realizing that Armin is still free of those things. So Levi stops, and he looks like he has a hard swallow, and he reconsiders his decision. Levi realized that it would have been cruel. It would have been inhumane to force Erwin to take on that role again, no matter how capable he was, and whether he was the one who could save humanity or not. Doing that to Erwin, in my opinion, would have been even more tragic than Erwin dying without fulfilling his dream. And at the end of the day, Erwin's dream was not built around hope and joy. Erwin's dream is a dream that was built around guilt and pain. It was a dream that was built around him wanting to make up for the fact that he got his father killed. And it was his guilt that drove him to join the Survey Corps. And that's not to say Erwin's just a big fat liar and has been bullshitting this whole time. I think Erwin genuinely does care about humanity. I think he really does believe the things that he says to his soldiers, but I don't think he just convinced his soldiers. I think he convinced himself as well. I think he wants to believe he's doing these things for the right reasons. But over several chapters, we've seen that Erwin is not a perfect man. His motivation is not centered around the survival of humanity. When Levi went to him and told him, "I'm gonna break your damn legs off if you step 1 foot outside that wall," Erwin was like, "Nope, I'm gonna go see that basement. I don't care if I die and that fucks things up for you guys. I'm going." So that was a pretty selfish thing to do, and Levi was kind of pissed off about it. So Erwin made that choice himself. Even though Levi was trying to talk him out of it, he didn't want him to go, Erwin made that choice. He had the choice to stay behind somewhere safe, and he should have, but he wanted to go. He wanted to fulfill his dream. That was selfish. But now, at this point, when Erwin is talking to Levi, Erwin is just so tired. And like I said, Erwin's not a bad person, and Levi knows this. Erwin was just smart enough and clever enough to find a way to justify his own actions. But ultimately, he started questioning whether these choices that he made were right. Perhaps he'd come to a point where he started thinking that maybe I don't deserve to see the basement. Maybe I don't deserve to fulfill my dream because the path to that dream is paved with the blood of my dead comrades who I lied to. So Erwin is really feeling that guilt heavily. He's feeling the weight of those sins. And he's got to a point where he's like, I'm kind of done. I'd really like to see that basement, but I don't know if it's worth it anymore, man. Erwin was torn. He wanted to be selfish, but he knew it would be wrong to be selfish. So he turned to Levi, his most trusted friend, to help him make the right decision. Because he knows that Levi has more resolve than he does. And even though Flock refers to him as a demon, in a way, it would have been even more messed up if Erwin decided to just fuck off and save his own life after all this. That would be pretty selfish. But that's not the kind of person Erwin is. In the end, he wanted to do the right thing and sacrifice his life to give humanity a chance for a victory. So Erwin was ready. Erwin had come to a place of acceptance, and he was ready to die. Erwin gave his last breath for the good of humanity, and Levi enabled him to do that, and to help him repent for his sins. So if Levi had brought Erwin back, it would have undone that repentance. Erwin would have been forced to come back into hell as a demon. What Levi was saying in the end was so poignant and true, about bringing Erwin back into hell when he was on the brink of freedom. Erwin could only go on as commander for so long. Even if he had become a titan and his arm was healed, it would eventually be his guilt that would cripple him. This doesn't make Erwin weak or incompetent. This makes Erwin's character very human. A person can only take so much horror. If Erwin were capable of going on, he wouldn't be human. His character wouldn't feel human. And when we see the panel of Kenny shoving the serum into Levi's chest, Kenny is making a choice. In the end, Kenny wanted to save what little humanity he had left. He didn't take the serum because he would rather die a man than live as a monster. And that's what Levi realized, and what ultimately swayed him to change his mind. So when Erwin looks at Levi and says thank you, it's because Levi is not only allowing Erwin to have the release of death, he's also the man who's going to give his death meaning, and who's going to allow Erwin a chance to repent for his sins. Levi also came to understand that they were also being selfish, to want that of Erwin. They wished for him to live and become that demon to save humanity, because they needed someone, as Armin put it, who was willing to sacrifice their humanity and become a monster in order to save humanity. Or do they? Levi is such a great character. He's complex and unpredictable, logical but sentimental. He's strong and brave and basically a hero, but he fucks up all over the place. He's smart and even a bit philosophical at times. And he dreams, or at least he wants to dream. He hasn't had his own dreams for a long time. He gave up on dreaming when he realized it was a useless and childish thing to do that would only end up in disappointment. But when he heard Armin talk about the ocean with such hope and excitement and blind optimism, it woke something up in him that had long lain dormant. It reminded him of what it was like to dream, what it was like to have that welling of emotion when one talks about their hopes and their dreams. Times of naive innocence when anything seemed possible. what it's like to have something to hold on to, other than just fighting. Levi's dream was once to see the sky, to be free and live on the surface. Armin's dream is to see the ocean, to be free and live outside the walls. Armin's dream is very similar to the dream Levi used to have. On a basic level, they want to see something natural and beautiful that they've never seen before, but on a more fundamental level, what they really want is freedom. What their dream is actually about is not about seeing the ocean or the sky. It's about being able to see the ocean or the sky, having the freedom to do that, and to be able to enjoy it without fear. Perhaps Levi even sees a little bit of himself in Armin. But it's just a silly dream, right? Why is it important? Dreams aren't what's going to save humanity. We need fighters, we need warriors, we need strategists, we need weapons. We don't need dreams, we need somebody who's willing to give up their humanity and become a monster, right? So, if that's our main goal, shouldn't Levi have chosen Erwin? Why do dreams even matter? Well, to answer that, let's go all the way back to the end of the Female Titan arc, when Jean and Armin are walking through the courtyard, and Jean brings up that line, and he says to Armin, so someone has to be able to give up their humanity in order to save humanity. And Armin says, yeah, pretty much. And then Jean asks another question, a very important question. He asks Armin, is that really saving humanity? Let's think about that for a second. What is humanity? How do you define it? Is it our literal existence on this planet? Or is it what we do with it? If you're just talking about the literal human race surviving and procreating into the future, that's easy. But that's just one definition of humanity. There's another definition, and that's, what is it exactly that makes us human? How do you define humanity? Is it our innovation, our art, our intellect, our culture, love, war, hate? What is it that makes us uniquely human? I can tell you two things that are unique to human beings: hopes and dreams. Every human being has dreams. We can't help it. It's true what Kenny said. We all need a dream in order to carry on. Why did Levi choose Armin? I think part of the reason is because Armin has the vision Erwin once had. The vision of a world where humanity could finally be free and live in peace. Levi still believes in that vision, and Armin is the one who is going to carry that vision into future generations. Because if you don't have something to hang on to, you can't carry on. That is true for every individual human being and humanity as a whole. Armin is important, and here's why. Armin is one of those rare individuals that comes around every so often, who has a vision that inspires people.
I have a dream!
All throughout history, leaders, innovators, artists, revolutionaries, and many others have been motivated by a dream. I think Armin is going to be one of those individuals. Not a leader of the soldiers, but a leader of the people. I think Armin is someone who's going to lead humanity into a new direction. Armin's dream isn't just about seeing the ocean. It's about freedom. Freedom from oppression, freedom from pain, freedom from fear. It's about living a life with dignity in a world where anything is possible. We all need that light at the end of the tunnel to head towards. Levi believed in Erwin's dream. Erwin's dream was that light for him. And now that that dream is gone, whose dream is Levi going to follow? Erwin was the commander of the Survey Corps, a genius in his own right. He implemented strategies and changes that advanced humanity and saved hundreds of lives. He had given everything he could to the cause, and even though his motivations were his own, by making the sacrifice he made, he showed that he is not as selfish as he believes himself to be, and he still believed in that vision for a better future for humanity. Erwin was ready, and the torch must be passed on. In the end, I think that maybe Levi realized that he does have a dream. His dream is to be free. His dream is for humanity to be free. And he's going to follow anyone whose goals are also aligned with that dream. When you talk about Erwin saving humanity, you're talking about the literal survival of the human race and its ability to exist and continue into future generations. When you talk about Armin saving humanity, you are talking about the second definition of humanity, that which actually makes us human. Dreams are powerful things. Dreams are contagious. And dreams are human. Without them, we would no longer be human. And if we lose that part of humanity, what else is there left to save? Humanity needs both. Humanity needs strength, but it also needs spirit. Erwin represented the strength of humanity, while Armin represents its spirit. So did Levi make the right choice? Only time will tell. But that's what's great about this manga. The characters are complex and real. They don't always make the smart decision, they don't always make the logical decision, but that's part of being human. Perhaps saving Erwin would have been the smart and logical choice, but would it have been the right one, as in morally right? Would it not have been cruel to force this continued existence upon a man who had already done so much for humanity, to which he could not escape his suffering? A man who is ready to let go. At the end of the day, Levi made the choice that made him the most human. By making the choice he made, Levi hung on to that little bit of humanity that he had left, because he realized that we can't just let that go. We need that part of humanity to stay with us. Because if we let go of it completely, then there is no humanity left to save. So even if Levi's choice leads to the destruction of humanity, at least we would die as human beings and not monsters. Thanks for watching.